Welcome to the Implementation Training Path series. Today we'll discuss GTM workspaces. We'll go through takeaways, what is a workspace, how to create a workspace, resolving workspace changes, and resources. Takeaways. Each container has a single stream of versions, which are snapshots of the state of the container at the time that they're created. Creating a version is a good way to save and preserve your work. It's also worth noting that every time you hit publish, you're also creating a version. You may want to create a new workspace to handle quick changes or for multiple users to work concurrently in a given container. Each container also has a default workspace, which will always be available for you. This is where you're currently making changes today if you haven't actually created a new workspace. When a workspace is published, the changes from that workspace will become a version and the workspace will be removed. The exception is the default workspace, which will be recreated after being published. As we said previously, it will always be available for you. Let's talk about what a workspace is. A workspace in Google Tag Manager is a place to work on a set of tagging changes independently of other in-progress work in that container. For example, if you went into a container and saw that another user had made a number of changes related to a different type of tag, for example, an AdWords conversion tracking tag or a double-click floodlight pixel, and you wanted to make a quick change to your Google Analytics tagging, you might choose to use a new workspace to work on that work concurrently. Let's look at the chart below. In this case, we have our default workspace, which was created when we had version 1. We made some changes in that workspace. And we've since done something which has created version 2 from another workspace potentially. And we go and we create a new workspace to do a quick GA tag update. When we create this workspace, it's based on the latest version at the time. In this case, all of the tags and triggers and variables and folders in this quick GA tag update workspace is based on version 2. If we were then to create a version or to publish this quick GA tag update workspace, version 3 is now the latest workspace, but our default workspace will be out of date because we've created a later version than the version that the default workspace was synced to or was updated based off of. You'll be notified that this is out of date, and we'll talk about this in a moment or two. Now let's talk about how to create a workspace. First, log into Google Tag Manager and access the container that you plan to work in. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice your current workspace, and there's a button there. You'll also find a Manage Workspaces option in the middle of the screen. Click one of these options, and you'll be presented with the Workspaces screen. Click the plus icon in the upper right-hand corner of that screen. You'll be asked to name your workspace and describe it. It's important to remember that all of the changes in this workspace will become a version when you publish it or create a version based on that workspace. So try to name your workspace something meaningful of the work that you plan to do in it, and describe that work such that it will be meaningful when somebody looks back on that version in the future. You can always change this later when you're ready to publish. Save the workspace and continue. Let's take a look at creating a new workspace in Google Tag Manager. I'm looking at a container, and I notice that there's a few changes here that I don't actually know about. I don't know who made these changes, and I don't want to disrupt them or have to publish them when I'm ready to publish my work. So I'll click here under Current Workspace, and now from the upper right-hand corner, I can create a new workspace. I'll want to name this workspace, as I mentioned, something meaningful of the work that I plan to do here. Let's call it New GA Event Tag, and we'll give it a quick description. And we'll save this workspace. You'll see as well in the workspace screen that it's telling me I only have one workspace left now. In standard Google Tag Manager containers, you can have up to 3 concurrent workspaces. if you're a Tag Manager 360 customer and you've linked your account to your Google Analytics 360 organization, you'll have unlimited workspaces. In the workspace screen, you'll be able to see exactly what changes have been made here. In this case, no changes have been made yet. So we'll go and we'll create a new Universal Analytics event tag. And we'll give this some categorization. And maybe we want to pull in actually the form ID here. So we'll turn on a new built-in variable for all of the form interactions. And we'll select the form ID as the label for this event. And we'll set it to trigger based on a new trigger when a form submission occurs. And we'll have this fire on all form submissions. Great. Now we have our new GA event tag, and you'll also see that all of the built-in variables and the trigger that I've created are here. Let's publish these changes. You'll see that the workspace name and description have been pre-populated for me. I know a little bit more about what I've done now, so why don't I elaborate on this a little bit. Great. And we'll go and we'll publish this version. And now from the version screen, we can see exactly what happened in this workspace and the version that was created from it. Now let's talk about resolving conflicts. We'll go back to the deck. When a workspace is out of date, you'll be prompted to update it with the changes made in any versions since the workspace was created or the last time it was updated. If there are any conflicts between the current workspace and a newer version, Google Tag Manager will alert you of these conflicts and enable you to resolve them one by one. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the Google Tag Manager interface. As you can see in the default workspace, it's now telling me that this workspace is out of date and I need to update it. So let's do that. And I'll go ahead and I'll see exactly what versions have been created since the last time I synced this workspace. If I want to, I can click into the version and I can see exactly what changes were made, so I know what I'll be updating my workspace to include. I'm okay with this, so I'll hit update. Great. And now my workspace is up to date. One thing to note here is that there were no conflicts between the latest version and the workspace that I'm working on now. But this won't always be the case. You'll see in this workspace we've made some changes to something called the Google Analytics page view tag. If we want to, we can see exactly what changes have been made here. It looks like I've set a cookie domain to site.com. Great. But what if somebody were to edit this field or this tag in another workspace? Let's take a quick look at that. So in this case, somebody will go in here and they'll create a workspace to update the GA cookie domain. And now, from the tags screen, we'll see all the tags that already exist in this container. And why don't we go and actually into more settings, fields to set, and set the cookie domain ourselves to domain.com. And we'll save this change. And now we'll go ahead and we'll publish this container. Wonderful. But back in the workspaces, I'll be dropped into the default workspace once again, and it's telling me it's out of date, and I'll go ahead and I'll update that. And now it's telling me there's a conflict. So if I click Resolve here, it'll show me exactly what that conflict is and walk me through resolving it. On the left, you'll see the tag as it stands in the latest version, and on the right, you'll see that tag as it stands in this current workspace. In this case, I have the option of either ignoring the change from the latest version and continuing with that change that I've made in this workspace, or copying the change from the latest version. So I'll do that. And now you can see that all changes have been resolved. We'll save, and now we can go on with our work. Let's go back to the deck. Finally, some resources for you to take a look at.